Hey there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole and this is episode 38. I am sitting on my porch in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, and I film these episodes about every 2 weeks. I'm a math education professor on summer break, and I normally film these like during the day, but it's evening time now. Even though it's been summer, it's been really busy, and I'll share more about that in the personal section, but I have like a really epic finished object today and I have a really epic whip to talk about, and I just have some fun things to chat about. There's a giveaway. Last episode reached 3,000 subscribers, and so I'll announce the winner of the giveaway after I talk about my finished object and my work in progress. So get cozy, grab your knitting, and let's hang out. All right, I have a very epic, and I overuse the word epic, but I do have I have an epic finished object. Before I show you my epic finished object, I want to show you my little project bag and share a story. So this was the project bag I was using. It's from Molly Klein Designs. I've had it for a while. I bought it on sale a long time ago. And there's like a coffee, I don't know if you can see it, there's a coffee stain on it. And so I'm using, my work in progress is in here now, but this held my finished object. And I knit my finished object by campfire, so this smells like campfire. Then I spilt some coffee on it, and I was telling my husband Kyle about it, and he was like, let's cut two of your favorite things, campfires and coffee. And then last weekend I was knitting on a stand-up paddleboard. Hopefully I'm putting in a picture here of me knitting on a stand-up paddleboard, and I used this bag on a stand-up paddleboard, and it got a little wet too. So it's wet, sandy, muddy, campfire, coffee, and that's like summer. So I definitely probably need a waterproof bag if I'm gonna keep knitting on my stand-up paddleboard. Okay, I need to talk about my finished object. I'm so excited about this. It is a shawl design of mine. It is my very first shawl I've designed. The yarn was sponsored by Purl and Postulates. Jessica at Purl and Postulates. I've knit her yarn for a long time. I've knit a lot of things out of her yarn, and I just think it's beautiful. And look at this. This yarn doesn't disappoint, and the shawl turned out exactly how I dreamed it to be, and that's a really good feeling. So let me tell you about the shawl. It's obviously a crescent shaped shawl that you knit from the top. So you start here and knit down. I think, I'm just going off the top of my head, but I think the measurements were that it's 27 inches deep. So, it's not a little shawl. And I think it's 54 inches wide. So, it's just a nice, cozy shawl. It's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want something that's so big it's hard to wrap around, but I also don't I was gonna say I don't like small shawls, and that's just not true because I knit tons of Sophie scarves. Okay, I've knit 3 Sophie scarves, tons. I've knit 3 Sophie scarves, but I want to knit more. And those are itty bitty scarves. So I don't know. I guess I just didn't want this to be a small one. So yeah, here we go. And I wanted to design it crescent shaped because that is one of my favorite shapes, because you can wear it cozy. I'm a professor, so that's why the podcast is Professor Purl. And I wear it like this, kind of like a little granny, and I like to type and work and read, and so I like wearing it like this. But the thing about a crescent shape that I really like is You can also just style it like with a jacket or an outfit too. So yeah, I knew I wanted to be crescent shape. Also, I wanted to have an I-cord edging. I think it just looks really nice. And then I wanted the pattern to be fingering mohair. So many designers have these duos that are like one fingering. I said designers, dyers. These duos where it's one fingering and one mohair, and they're really fun to buy. And then like, what's a substantial thing you can make out of that? Lots of things actually, but also this. And so I wanted it to be like one of that. And Jessica's gonna have kits of these at the Flock Fiber Festival. That will be the first weekend in August. I think she's calling them like helix, like a double helix, and they're wrapped together. So cute. And her version of this, because she's testing it now, is so beautiful. So she's really good at color and has put together some cool kits for this, like loving it. So every other, and then the other goal with this is I love garter, but then sometimes you need to break from garter, and then sometimes you need to break from the interest to garter. And I wanted a pattern that was like easy to memorize. So garter, and then these chevrons, super easy to memorize. And then you know if you're off because it's all like lined up. And then garter, and then a fun little edge. So, okay, the name of it. I thought really hard about this, and I'm gonna tell you a story about it. So I got this yarn, picked it out because I was drawn to it. It was so beautiful. It's pink. I don't know if that's hard to see here, but it's pink with like navy and green specks. And the color name is I Lobe You, like from the brain. And so the brain, and then this ethereal sort of design I had in mind, I knew I wanted it to have a name like Dream or something like this. I think I've even mentioned this in the episodes before. But there's a lot of shawls out there like Daydream and things like that. But I did want Daydream to be the inspiration, which I think is a daydream. To me, this captures my daydream inspiration kind of thinking. Like, because knitting is a hobby that I daydream about like all the time. Are you like that? Like, that's how I feel. And so anyway, I ended up rabbit holing and discovering that the word wool gathering means the indulgence in daydreaming, and like the indulgence in idle daydreaming. And I was just enraptured by that, like just caught by that. And so, and it was very apropos because this will be kitted up and released at the Flock Fiber Festival in the first week of August, which is indeed also a literal wool gathering. So I just had to name this the Woolgathering Shawl, and it is so perfect, the name, and I'm just so excited about it. And so it's being tested now, and I have a really good group of testers. I never announce the test on Instagram if you only follow me. I was gonna say if you only follow me over there. If you're here, you don't only follow me over there. Okay, that was ridiculous. I pretty much only announced it here on the YouTube channel. I was like gonna try on the YouTube to see if I got enough people to apply, and then if I didn't, I'd go to Ravelry and Instagram, but I got plenty of people to apply through YouTube, so I never took it to Instagram. So anyway, got a great group that's testing it now. Oh, I should have brought my leftover yarn. There's not a lot of yarn left over. I will hopefully pop in a picture here of how much yarn is left. So I think the way it worked out of my mohair, which was a 50-gram skein of mohair, there was like 9 grams left. And so with the fingering, I used all of it up. I think there was 1 gram left. So what that means is if you're gonna knit this, oh, I adjusted the pattern. So after there was 1 gram left, I did take out a couple rows from these sections to gain some extra yardage. What this means is if you're going to knit this, you need a generous skein of fingering weight yarn, because I used skein of yarn from Purls and Postulates that has 463 yards, and obviously there's fingering weight yarns out there that only have like 400 yards. And so if that's the case, you'd want to like do kind of like a pop of color or something else at the bottom, or just make sure you are using a skein that has generous yardage on it. So that was also intentional because I didn't want to have a lot of waste. I feel like I'm just getting so much yarn scraps, which are great. I want to use up my yarn in a project. So I'm so proud of this, so proud of it, and I don't think I've ever created anything as cool. I mean, surely I've knit other things that are very cool, but it's just like it just feels like a whole extra make to like design something, have it tested, and see that whole process through. So epic. All right, I am knitting my work in progress. Like, yeah, I mean, do I have more than one work in progress? Absolutely. I have so many works in progress. It's kind of ridiculous, but since I last recorded an episode, I worked primarily on my shawl in every free opportunity I had, including on my stand-up paddleboard. and then this is a test knit for Morale of Knitting Ruined My Life, and it's the Barbie Crop. And there's so many good Barbie crops out there for the test knitters. They are so cute. I'm so glad I tested this a little bit. I'm like delaying showing you it because my color work looks scrunched up and it doesn't look that cute right now, but I know it'll block out nice. I don't usually have a problem with puckering on color work. I do think it's kind of happened on this one because of the motif, but when I lay it out, it looks like it's gonna be fine. Okay. Since I last recorded, I made a lot of progress on this, and I'm supposed to be done with this on July 17th, and I will. I have no doubt I will. I'm on the hem, on the bottom, on the ribbing right now, and it's short sleeve, so I mean, maybe tonight. Well, 6:15, we'll see. Tonight or tomorrow. Okay, so it's top down, circular yoke, daisies. They're scrunched up, but it's gonna look so good when I wet block this thing. High heels. So when I last recorded, I was somewhere in the high heels. I finished the high heels. I finished the purses, and I'm on the body, and I am now on the ribbing. I will finish the ribbing, and then I'll come over here, pick my stitches up, a couple rounds, and do another inch of ribbing on each. So I mean, there's just not a lot of knitting left. I have to weave in my ends, wet block it. This is so cute that I really look forward to taking like a very cool finished object photo. I'm not always the best at like planning cool finished object photos, but I really hope I do. I'm so glad I tested this, not just because it's like color work and I love color work, and fun motifs and I love fun motifs, and the yarn is just amazing, I'll talk about it, but it's like I'm also really glad I test knit it because I learned something new. I knit a lot of sweaters and I knit a lot of color work sweaters, but this is my first time doing 3 color work. 3 color work? Like, it's not 3 colors because I use 3 colors. Like, yes, I did use 3 colors, but that's not what makes it 3 color work. Color work, it's these rows here, like the center where the daisy is. In one row, I was knitting this color, the black, and then the pink. And then down here, in these rows here, I'd have a row where I knit the main color, the black, and then the pink. And I just have never done 3 color work before. And this is such a great entry-level project for that, if that's something you want to work on, because there's hardly any rows of it. I mean, it's there, but hardly any rows. So that's exciting. Yeah, I've been taking this project everywhere I go as well now that I'm done with my shawl, and this week Matilda's had swimming every single day, And so I've just brought this to swimming. It's getting too big for some of the bags I have. But, okay, I'm talking here. So here's my gauge swatch. And I'm a little nervous because this was knit and then blocked, and it looks smaller than my gauge here. And so I got a gauge in my gauge swatch, but I think I have a larger gauge. So I'm thinking this sweater's gonna turn out bigger than it's supposed to for me, which is okay. I love oversized things. Unpopular opinion, when my color work sometimes stretches out bigger than I like it, I put it in the dryer. I love unpopular knitting opinions, side note. So if you have any of those, drop those below. But an unpopular knitting opinion I have is that I will dry in the dryer my wool sweaters. Now, it's not like I put it in there for like a half hour or something. It's just like, is it a little too big? Pop that in for like 5 minutes, check it out. I think last episode I shared my unpopular knitting opinion that I don't catch my floats. See, there they are, not caught any of them. So I don't catch floats, and I sometimes shrink my sweaters in the dryer. It's like knitting confessions. Maybe I should make it my own, like, oh, ah. I just dropped a bunch of stitches. That is something I'm very notorious for doing. Kyle, my husband, who's also a knitter, though he doesn't like coming on the episodes too much, he always teases me about dropping the stitches. I'm just always dropping my stitches. Okay. All right, back on track. I was gonna share my yarn. Okay, I was like talking about my gauge swatch being too small. This is actually why some people, their unpopular opinion is that they don't gauge swatch, because they're like, my garment turns out different anyway. But I now know it's gonna turn out too big. I'm not gonna be surprised. Like, I know it because I did it. I don't know. I feel like when you test knit, like, you should gauge swatch. Gauge, I said that weird. Gauge swatch. I think like you just need to. To try to get what the gauge the designer's giving you. And then stuff happens. Like, I think I ended up kind of, I've been frantically knitting this, and I think with the more excited I get, the looser I knit. I'm frantically knitting it because I just want it. I just want it to be done. Not in a bad way I want it to be done, just like I want that sweater. So I think the reason why I do it, even though sometimes it doesn't work out, is like, it's this idea of like wanting to do your best job to make sure your garment fits. Sometimes it works out that you knit looser. Most of the time I don't, though. I would say most of the time I gauge if it is similar to here and there, but all right, I'm really digressing. So the colors, the pink, this is Gnome River Yarns. Tammy, hi Tammy, if you're watching. She sent this to me from her local yarn store. This is the Clever Gnome base, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It comes with 250 yards per 100 grams. The color is Petal Pink. Perfect Barbie pink in my opinion. So I knew that I wanted to use this for this project. The black was left over from a sweater I knit my mom. I knit her a Soldana sweater. And out of my mom's Soldana was all Leading Men Fiber Arts yarn. And this is Darkest Hour, DK weight, 250 yards, 100% superwash merino. So no DK in it. And I mean, no nylon in it. So you can kind of tell it's like the yarn that has the nylon isn't as fluffy as the yarn that doesn't, but it all will block out and be fine. So I had those yarns in my collection. So then I purchased Wandering Flock yarn as the main body to go with those. I purchased it from Wild Hand. So this is the Wandering Flock. It's 100% superwash extra fine merino, and you can tell it's extra fine because this yarn's very soft, very fluffy. It's so soft, I'm wondering if it's gonna pill. And it's 230 yards, and the colorway is Cosmic Tye Dye. And it is a variegated yarn. And when you buy a variegated yarn and you knit it in a sweater, it's going to pool. And pooling is what's referred to as like this. Like you can see these colors here. It's like purple and yellow. Like it's going to pool when you buy variegated yarn. And so I knew this would pool, and I embraced that and wanted that for this, and not everybody likes that in their garments, and that's okay. My thought was I was using these kind of bolder colors here in the colorwork motifs, and I knew that the Wandering Flock aesthetic of dye is like a neon pastel, and so it is pooling, but it's kind of, in my mind, like, I don't know, lighter and not distracting from the color work. You might disagree, but I like it. And then here's what I think is so cool. The colorway is called Cosmic Tye Dye, and it actually, to me, looks like tie-dye. And I just think that that's very cool. So, epic work in progress. I have an outline tank top as part of my tank top along, and that make along ends end of July. I had great hopes of knitting two tank tops this summer, and I haven't even knit one for my own make along. I am through the body. I'm not showing it because I think I knit like 5 rows since I last recorded, but I'm well on my way. And like, I think the next steps are like just to measure, make sure it's like, I made the pattern, so it didn't, you knit it bottom up. I've gotten 9 inches, and I think I'm like to the point where I need to like think and read the pattern, and that's delayed me a little bit. Also, I want to finish the shawl and finish that. So as soon as, I think that's the other reason why I'm like wanting to be done with this whip here, is I just want to, as soon as I finish the Barbie Crop, work on my tank top, because I do want to make the goal of make along. Make along here on the channel was a little bit of motivation for me to knit a tank top, and I've started it, check, but I would like to finish one this summer. I'd like to wear it to the Flock Fiber Festival, maybe, we'll see. So yeah, we'll see how July works out. Hopefully I'm gonna finish that Barbie Crop here today or tomorrow, and then hopefully by the end of July I will have an outline take too. We'll see. And I think I've like wanted to work on other things because I love knitting and I have like so many things, but I just, that's all I worked on since I last recorded. Time to announce the winner. So this is Zebra Yarns. It's a 50-gram self-striping, and then it comes with this little mini. And yeah, there. I mean, I didn't show any socks today. I don't really consider myself a sock knitter, but I love knitting socks when I get around to it, and I also love wearing hand knit socks, and I love self-striping yarns. So Anna's my friend from Zebra Yarns, so I thought it'd be fun to pick one of these up and share it for, you know, thank you for being here, 3,000 subscribers giveaway. So yeah, I will put the name here of the winner, and so, you know, my contact information on Instagram and email is below, so reach out to me and I'll send this to you. So anyway, reach out to me if you're seeing this. Congratulations. We are to the acquisitions part of the episode, and one of the acquisitions is from my mom, and it's not store-bought, it is handmade, it's crocheted. So this year, this summer, I'm going to turn 40 years old. So in August, it's not for like a month. So my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday for her to make me, and I said a hat. I legitimately said a hat, and she was like, I can make you a hat anytime. And like, I don't know, I really would like a hat. I would have enjoyed a Musselburgh, but she was like, she can make those readily, I guess, easy or something. And so she was like, how about something else? And I said, well, you pick. And so then she crocheted me a giant shawl. let's see here, make sure I have it the right side. So just the perspective, it's just huge, which is what I like. I mean, I also like a small shawl too, but I guess I just like shawls. I think I like them either tiny, like just owning their tininess, like the Sophie scarf, or I like them like really big. And I don't think that there's much of a middle for me. Yeah, so, okay. Why did she send this to me a month early? Well, one, like she's just being a good mom, like making sure I have my 40th birthday present early. Unlike me, when I knit her a sweater, it took me like a year, but okay. So I think she's being nice, but also I'm going to this Clock Fiber Festival, and like, I don't know, I just think it's like one of these once in a lifetime opportunities where you have a meet and greet in a yarn dyer's booth. And so anyway, I think my mom, honoring that, wanted to make me something out of the Purls and Postulates yarn. So it's made out of Purls and Postulates yarn. And this is actually the Math Education colorway. It's Math Education Professor, that's me, and Numberline. And so this is part of her Women in STEM initiative, and this was my colorway. I guess it was a year ago now, almost. So yeah, so my mom made that. So that's special because it's like my yarn. And then the pattern, crocheters, this is beyond my skill level. I can single, double, and like granny stripe and granny square with a lot of tutorial help. So this is way beyond my skill level. The pattern is the Abigail Shawl by Bonnie Bay Crochet. So anyway, I think I'm gonna bring this to the booth too. Yeah, so anyway, that was very, so that, oh, that's partly why my mom got it here early. She just wanted to make sure that I had it to bring to flock. So that will be one of the things I'll have in the booth. Okay, so that's a very amazing birthday present and acquisition since I last recorded. All right, so the test knit, the Barbie Crop test knit, and the shawl, like those were really, really big projects for me. Like, I feel proud that I'm going to finish my sweater test knit on time, and I feel proud that I, like, theoretically should have that pattern to release in the flock. I mean, it's been in testing now, it seems to be going well. So like, my reward for like doing those big things was like a special cast on. And I have wanted to do a half and half wrap for a long time. Like years ago, almost, is it 2 years now? Or just a year ago? I don't know. It was years ago on the Caddy Jacks podcast when they were into knitting the half and half wraps. And I feel like they like really just spurred this love worldwide for this half and half. And then Stacy from Stress Knits, on her YouTube channel, she was showing lots and lots of half and half wraps, and there's just so many podcasters. I just recently watched the Knitters League and they were having half and half wraps. And then my friend Maddie from We Share Needles podcast on Instagram was showing her color selection on Instagram and her stories. And I just feel like I like couldn't resist. Like it was like building up all this influence of like wanting one. I've hesitated because it's a lot of garter. It's essentially a blanket, and I'm not a blanket knitter. I'm not a blanket knitter. I'm a garment knitter. And so, yeah, it feels like a blanket. So that's why I always kind of hesitated. It's a massive amount of yarn. I've looked at it so much that I like knew exactly what colors from Linen Quill I wanted. I knew, and I've known for over a year, like the colors from Linen Quill I've wanted. So basically I was this close to buying the yarn. And then on 4th of July, that weekend, man, time is flying, because it is not close to 4th of July more. It's mid-month, but so July is flying by. But there was a sale, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna buy the yarn I've wanted for a long, long time. Okay, so my neutral, basically I want to do kind of a neutral boring and then a pop. And I've wanted this exact color situation for a long time, and it finally arrived, and it did not disappoint. So my neutral is a colorway called Peach Stone, and it's looking really accurate in the camera right now. It's like kind of gray, kind of brown. I mean, Peach Stone is like, I feel like just a very good name for this. So I'm going to start with that color. That was Maddie's advice to me. She's like, start with the boring thing while you're excited, and then to get to the pop. But this is the color I want to start knitting with, and this is the most amazing color. Look at that. Look at that. So this color is Bright Flamingo, I think. Yep. And it is looking in the camera more red to me. It's very bright, which is exactly what I wanted. I'll hold these two up together so you can see. I just think it'll be so nice to have a neutral and a pop. Look at that. Like, that's so fun. I mean, I was kind of conflicted. There was a color called Mushroom. That was my only, like, for years, because I've been looking at this for a long time. There's a color called Mushroom, which is, it looks amazing. If I somehow manage to pull one of these off, or I actually like complete this massive blanket situation that we're calling a wrap, if I end up pulling this off and end up liking it and do another one, I think I would do like the mushroom color, because that was the other one that was speaking to me. It was a little bit, it was more gray. I'd do the mushroom and maybe another pop of a color. I also thought this Bright Flamingo would look nice with like a fuchsia, or like a darker kind of raspberry color. You can't go wrong, really. I just, they're so fun. And so while I was doing it, I thought might as well get a giant needle, brand new needle. So we're ready to roll. I was gonna cast on today, but I'm like, I think what I need to do is just be done with the Barbie Crop, and then I can cast it on. I'm gonna just cast it on. And with no intention of trying to finish it very quickly. That's not me. I'm going to knit this thing for a long time, and that's my intention. I think it would be really good knitting to bring when I go back to school. So, or university, like when our university goes back, like by contract, we start August 15th. That's not when the university like classes start, but we have like lots of meetings, like all day meetings starting the 15th and every year. And I always bring my little basket with knitting. I think if it, like, I think people call their knitting that they bring to meetings and work, they call it like emotional support knitting. And it is emotional support knitting for sure. But in some ways it just makes me not dread meetings. I don't know how people don't knit at meetings. I just think of it like, well, I'm gonna enjoy friends and enjoy the view and have some knitting time. That is how I think of meetings. Unless of course I actually have to be actively doing something at a meeting, like presenting or something. But if it's just like these like kind of all faculty meetings, it's so wonderful to bring my knitting. So I was thinking the half and half wrap would be so good for that, and I'm really looking forward to that in August. I mean, I'm looking forward to going back to school. I actually really am. It's so interesting because it's like about a month away. I still have a whole month of summer, but I'm getting to the point of the summer where I'm like just thinking about the fall and like ready to go and getting excited about it. I actually went into the office today even. We are to the Professor's Purls segment of the episode, and in the Professor's Purls segment, I connect my professor life to my knitting life. and I haven't done one of these in a while, and I think it's because it's summer break and I've been summer Nicole. But I have a connection. So in the sort of academia, professor world, though I do think it happens in other careers and in other aspects, I just don't know about those because my career is being a professor. So in the professor world and academia, people talk a lot about imposter syndrome. You can let me know if you've heard of that in your career. Essentially, imposter syndrome is this inability to think that your success is due to your hard work or your capabilities or yourself. It's just this feeling of like inadequacy, of like feeling like you're not good enough, and it is a very serious thing, and it can be related to anxiety and other things. And so I want to be careful here because I don't think I have imposter syndrome. It's a very serious thing, but I do think that some things happened in my knitting life that made me like empathetic to the imposter syndrome that I hear a lot about in academia, and I also imagine is in other careers as well. So a lot of professors have imposter syndrome, and I hear about that quite frequently. I personally just haven't experienced it. And I don't say that to minimize other people's feelings or something. I personally haven't felt that. But I definitely think I got a taste of imposter syndrome with this shawl design. And like, it was like the whole time I was working on this, I just thought it was going to fail. Like I really did. I was like, I had this idea in my head and I didn't think that I could pull it off. But it turned out exactly how I thought. And that's very exciting. And then I thought, well, I'm not gonna be able to write it up. But I did, and honestly, the testers are doing great and like reading the pattern well, and like it seems to be working out fine. But it was just like one thing after another with this. I just thought like, it's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. Even me like trying to use up all the fingering yarn, I'm still today like worried that that was like a bad choice and that maybe I didn't account for enough percentage of error. Like it's just been a lot of imposter feelings. Now, I'm not saying I have imposter syndrome because that is a very serious thing that people have anxiety around, and I don't have anxiety around this at all, but I do, I have felt these elements of imposter around this, and I'm actually grateful for those feelings because I do think like it's important to be empathetic towards things. I think this happened similarly to me when I was applying to get into my PhD program years ago. This was in 2010, so a long time ago. I was applying to get into my PhD program and I had to take the GRE, and there was a quantitative part and a verbal part, and I aced the quantitative part, like literally. And my verbal part, I did so terrible. Like I couldn't have had more bimodal scores. And I was feeling like very like, oh my gosh, like while I was taking the verbal part. And it was a CAT system, so like if you're not answering questions correctly, you end up getting like easier questions, and I knew that, and so I was getting very easy questions, so I knew I was like bombing it. And I had test anxiety around the verbal part of the GRE for sure. And I remember after that, like going back to my classroom and being like, that is how people feel about math, and I don't want that for people. And so I do think that these feelings of like feeling like an imposter around the shawl design have been very good for me to be empathetic, and I embrace them. And I also think having a little bit of doubt was special because now, like when I was blocking this and like I'm so excited about this. Like, I just keep staring at it. The day that it was dry, Kyle, my husband, he was like, are you gonna like look at anything else today? I kept staring at this. And I was like, I don't know. I'm the amount of like pride out of this that I have is really special. And so, yeah, it's fun to share that. My connection between being a professor and designing this shawl had everything to do with those feelings of being an imposter. Okay, we have made it to the personal section of the episode. If you liked any of the knitting content today, don't forget to like and subscribe. But from this point forward, there is no more knitting, just personal life. And so normally, if you're a longtime viewer, you know that I share what I'm reading at this point. And I don't know. I feel like I've been reading a ton, but I haven't finished anything. So I was reading Carrie Soto is Back, and then I had to return it to the library before I could finish it. So I think that was sort of like the hiccup. There was a wait list for it. And so I'm almost done. I cannot wait. I'm on the list to get it back so I can finish reading that. So then at the same time that I was returning that book, I had been on the wait list for a fairy tale from Stephen King for 26 weeks. 26 weeks. This book is due in 2 days. And I am not done. I am 3/4 of the way through, but I love it. I love it so much. And it was interesting. I posted on Instagram and I was like, do people love this too? And I would say I got more messages that people didn't like it than did. People said it was slow, etc. And I'm having the opposite experience with this. It's a very thick book and I'm reading it in like 2 weeks, and I have a quarter of it left to read in 2 days, and I think I will finish it. I am so excited about it. I love it. I think an important disclaimer is when I was a middle schooler, I loved Stephen King. I read like Cujo in a day, for example. I mean, and that's not even hyperbole. I read Cujo by Stephen King in a day. And that was the kind of like reader towards Stephen King I was in middle school. And then I feel like there was a stage where Stephen King got really weird. Maybe it was in my 20s. I don't know. His stuff was weird. And I just didn't love it anymore. I couldn't, and I didn't love it. And I mean, stuff's always kind of out there, but like it got real weird. And I just wasn't into it. And I haven't rekindled that whole like I love Stephen King the way other people do. But here's why I was like, I have to be on the wait list in my library for Fairy Tale by Stephen King. When I was in 6th grade, I was like, I don't know about the Stephen King books. And my mom was like, hey, you should read this book. This would be a good one. He wrote it for his daughter. And it was a fantasy book. And it was like, I think called The Eyes of the Dragon or something. I'll look it up and pop it up here. And I remember reading that by our pool and like devouring it and loving it. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was about today, but I do remember it being very like fairy tale dragons out of his norm and just loving it. And so, and now that I'm reading fairy tale, I'm having those same kind of feelings I did when I read The Eyes of the Dragon. And now I actually want to go back and see if I can find that book and read that. It was fairy tale. I mean, obviously most people that love Stephen King think Stephen King is a genius. Like, even if you're not a huge Stephen King fan, you know that he is a creative genius. But I was still like in awe in this book about like how brilliant it is. It's like he takes all these fairy tales like Jack and the Beanstalk, Rumpelstiltskin, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, like all these fairy tales, and somehow meshes them together in a cohesive story. And I just love it. But I love fairy tales and I love fantasy books. And so I think that's an important disclaimer of like, I think if you love fairy tales, that's like something you really enjoy, you'd really enjoy this book, Fairy Tale. Maybe it seems so obvious, but I think the cover is so cool too. It looks like a dragon eye, and then upon a closer look you can see it's not. And if you read the book, you'll understand all the references in this picture. How I feel about this book is like, if you've watched if you're a long time viewer, you know I love this book about moss, gathering moss. And I just talk about it to people nonstop because it's like one of my favorite books. And that's how I'm feeling about Fairy Tale. It's like, it's gonna be like a favorite for sure. Okay, I'm trying to think if I'm reading anything else. That's pretty much it. I have been reading and writing for work a ton. It's actually like wild how much writing and work I've been doing this summer, even though I made the joke early on in the summer that it was summer Nicole and it wasn't gonna work hardly. I really have been working a lot, and so that's, I think, partly too why I don't have as much knitting. And I mean, I have big projects, so I think I need to not be hard on myself about not having much knitting. But yeah, I've been just really enjoying summer too. Matilda's doing all the camps. Like, a while back ago she had mermaid dance camp. This week she has a swim camp that's 5 days a week, and then next week she's doing track camp, and then she's got soccer camp. And when I go to all these things, I bring my knitting or book, and I just really enjoy that. We've been going to the library almost every day, and I love it. I like looking at books for myself, even if I'm not reading a ton. Like, I just like being around the books and looking at them, and I love doing the activities with Matilda. Like, they have a scavenger hunt of this like mascot called Squawk that's a parrot around town and in the library. We go look for Squawk, and there's adult library programming too. Like, Kyle and I will go and do the trivia question. And so yeah, we just went to the library yesterday and like 2 days before that, and like it's just been going to the library a lot, and I love it. And I'm so excited to be using my stand-up paddle board. It's supposed to be really hot this weekend, and I'm looking forward to doing it more. And I mean, the knitting on the stand-up paddle board is like really funny. I know I said I wasn't gonna talk about knitting anymore, but it's like, I shouldn't be knitting on the stand-up paddle board because it's like very wet and like chaotic with a 5-year-old, right? So Matilda's like climbing on my board, hopping off. Like, I think if I didn't have a 5-year-old, I'd be like, great, my knitting would stay dry and everything would be fine. But Matilda's hopping in and off. People on the beach look at me very strange, and I'm like, I'm just living my life, having my like. And yeah, so I was knitting this shawl, and I was on the stripe section on my stand-up paddle board. So I was like perfect stand-up paddle board knitting. It's just like knitting right here, it's just garter. And I was in the mohair part, and my mohair got wet from Matilda. So you would think that would stop me. No, I'm like knitting with wet mohair on my stand-up paddle board, and I'm like, I have reached a whole new level. But what's funny about it is not like I get a ton of knitting done, right? Like, cause it's like, you know, 5 stitches, paddle, 10 stitches, paddle, you know, and like, it's like the slowest, most ridiculous knitting, but I enjoy doing it. Trying to think what else we've done. We've gone to the zoo again. Like, I mean, seriously, I feel like we're just like the same thing every day. But I mean, it's all good stuff. I mean, the library, the zoo, stand-up paddleboarding, going on walks, riding our bike. I mean, it's delicious summer things that I'll really miss in the winter. So I guess I'm on like the downhill slide here for summer, and so I'm not much of a goal setter for knitting. I just want to like enjoy my knitting, and some people enjoy their knitting through setting goals, and so that's, you know, everybody do their thing, that's good. However, I do have a goal, which is I want to like just enjoy the remainder of my summer and enjoy my knitting, you know, finish the tank top for my tank top make along, tank top along. and so I haven't signed up for any test knits. When I finish the Barbie Crop, I will have no more test knits. Will I make it? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, thanks so much for being here, being my knitting friend, being part of the community. If you are planning on going to the Flock Fiber Festival, make sure that you say hi to me. If you're there on Saturday, I will be at the Purls and Postulates booth on the Saturday. I think that's the August 6th. And I will be there from noon to 2. There's a chance my friend Jordan, who was I was her high school math teacher. This is kind of a random story to be telling her at the end of the podcast. It's just kind of a wild story. So I was Jordan's high school math teacher. Like, I taught her Algebra 2, I taught her AP Statistics in Illinois. And I mean, obviously I wasn't her friend then, I was her teacher. And I don't know, life, like, she ended up becoming like one of my really good friends. And anyway, she's a medical doctor and lives in Seattle now. And like, so we both lived in Illinois and now we both kind of live on the West Coast. And she comes out to visit me at my house here in Pacific Northwest in Oregon, and she brought her dog Match. And yeah, it's been really fun. We've stayed connected for years. I mean, we even stood up at a wedding together. And so, I mean, we have a lot of like similar hobbies. Like, we both like to ride bikes. Now, she's very athletic. I am not as athletic as her. Like, she rode her bike all the way from New York to LA. Like, it took like 70 days or something. Like, I'm not that kind of cyclist or that athletic, but I like do love riding my bike a lot. And so I can remember in Illinois, like when she was training, like riding with her. And yeah, so we have a lot in common, and she's a knitter. And so we were planning on going to Flock together, and now I will be at the booth at Purls and Postulates, and I'm already like starting my shopping list. Like, if you go on the Flock Fiber Festival like Instagram, you can like see some of the things. Oh, they look so good. I'm trying to decide if I want to buy another, like one of those helix sets from Jessica. I like kind of think I want to buy another one. I don't know if I'll knit another one. I kind of want to. I don't know if I should do like one that's like bright, like not matching mohairs. I don't know. There's also going to be super glow fibers, which is like super bright yarn there. I'm like already making plans for that. And there's going to be a bag maker there called Crafty Little Fox, or Little Crafty Fox. I'll put the Instagram here. And I am eyeing those bags. I'm going to try to score one of those. So yeah, so that's I circled back to knitting it, so it would be only personal, and then I circled back to knitting. I think it's time to go, and it is getting late here, but I'm really enjoying my time out here in golden hour on the porch. It'd be good to sit out here and keep knitting, I think, until and Kyle are inside playing. And so I'm probably gonna go inside and hang out with them now for a little bit before coming back out here. But thanks so much for being here. Bye.